Hello, everybody. Welcome into another episode of the Fantasy Pros Football Podcast. I'm Ryan Wormeli, joined this morning, as I am every Thursday morning, by Derek Brown and Andrew Erickson. Fellas, we are talking some must-sit players here as we get into Week 4. It's always a jam-packed Thursday, so we will dive right in. And Erickson, we're going to start with you. Give me your 3 must-sit running backs in Week 4.
I'm going to start with Alvin Kamara. I know that a lot of people are excited now that they can put him back in their lineups. I'm not that excited for it. I don't really like the matchup against Tampa Bay Buccaneers. I know they got run on against DeAndre Swift, but the Eagles are a different breed of running game. Like, they can run against basically everybody. We saw them do it against the Vikings, and we saw Josh Kelly run against the Vikings, and that was very sad. So don't look at the box score from Swift and assume that you can just copy and paste, oh, well, the Saints are just going to run all over the Buccaneers. Don't think that's going to be the case. Now you also have Jameis Winston potentially starting this game. Jameis Winston had 0 targets to running backs when he came in the second half of the game last week. Last year, with Alvin Kamara and Jameis Winston playing together, we saw Alvin Kamara average 2.5 receptions, 5.5 targets per game. That's not bad, but in the games that Kamara did play last year with Winston overall, he averaged under 8 fantasy points in both contests. Against Tampa Bay, the last 2 years, Kamara has scored 6 points, 16, and 5 fantasy points against the Buccaneers. Like, this isn't a matchup that Kamara has smashed in recent years where he's been really productive. And we're talking about, hey, Josh Jacobs. You know, he's a player that's looked slow and sluggish coming off so much time off. He missed training camp. Now, Kamara didn't miss training camp, but he's missed the last 3 weeks. I don't know what he's been doing. He was suspended. So I want to see him in this backfield, which has been kind of messy. They've been using guys in way different ways. They use Taysom Hill at the goal line. So I want to see Alvin Kamara first in this offense before I put him out. If it was a better matchup, I think I feel more confident about starting him this week. But for me, he's outside my top 24 running backs, and I would really want to see him play first before I put him in my lineup. Next guy for me is Dameon Pierce for the Houston Texans. Dameon Pierce ranks 6th worst in success rate rushing. And last week, he had the perfect run. Like, it was the perfect game script. The Texans were up in a game. They were winning the game. And he still played barely over 50% of the snaps. He scored a touchdown, which basically saved him. But besides that, he still couldn't get going on the ground. 14 for 31 rushing, but he scored. That's why he saved his fantasy day. Devin Singletary had more yards on just 9 carries. You know, Pierce caught 3 passes to Devin Singletary's 2. Like, and when they were up in the fourth quarter, when you expect Dameon Pierce to be the guy, Devin Singletary was in there grinding out clock. So I'm trying to figure out the upside of Dameon Pierce. I know that he's playing the Steelers, that you look at season-long stats, they're bad against running backs. Well, it's because they played McCaffrey and Nick Chubb. Like, those are the 2 best running backs in the NFL, in my opinion. Dameon Pierce is not that guy. So for me, Dameon Pierce is a sit against the Steelers, who I think are going to get after CJ Stroud with their pass rush. And then my last guy here is Gus Edwards, or really any Ravens running back. Not sure if Gus Edwards is going to play. It looks like he's going to, just based on the practice reports. But whether it's Edwards, Justice Hill, Melvin Gordon, Kenny Drake, I don't care. Like, I don't want to play any of these Ravens running backs against the Cleveland Browns. They have an elite run defense, and none of these Ravens running backs are getting enough volume or are good enough, in my opinion, to overcome the bad matchup in just a game that I think is probably going to be like 10-3 between the Ravens and Browns. Just kind of profiles as a very, like, a dogfight AFC North battle. So for me, I'm going to be fading the Ravens backfield.
Yeah, I fully agree. There will be no me making the case for Ravens this week. I mean, the Browns defense looks like, quite frankly, possibly historic. It's
Can we
incredible.
Get that clip for social? Can we get that clip?
I don't know.
Like, you will
why
not
this
be making a
narrative,
case for a Ravens back.
I don't know where this narrative is that,
asking.
like, I just blindly am high on the. I just have been high on the Ravens this year because I'm really excited about their offense. But this is a week I'm not. I think that they will very much struggle. Okay. This Browns defense is ridiculous. Okay. I think anybody would be insane to not be worried about really any Ravens player this week. I want to ask you, Debro, though, about Dameon Pierce, because I know that you were higher on him than Erickson is. So he's somebody I was very high on in the preseason. It obviously has not played out that way in the first 3 weeks. And to Erickson's point, you know, the Steelers have played much better running backs than Pierce when they've been hurt by the position. So why are you higher on Pierce than Erickson is?
Well, first of all, I'm going to push back a little bit on the, well, they faced CMC and Nick Chubb and stuff. Did we see Jerome Ford rip off big runs against the Pittsburgh Steelers? He's not Nick Chubb. He's not CMC. His tackle breaking metrics are pretty good, but I think it's a bigger point of, well, we didn't need the Miami Dolphins just to body bag the Denver Broncos run defense to know that they were bad. The Pittsburgh Steelers run defense can be bad, but even though they played good running backs. And Dameon Pierce, amongst 59 running backs, he's 19th in missed tackles forced per attempt. And if you look at this Pittsburgh Steelers run defense, yeah, they are legitimately bad. 8th highest explosive run rate, 9th highest missed tackle rate. And if you look at how this matches up with Dameon Pierce, 75% zone runs. And he's one of my must start guys because not only do they want to sit here and take the pressure off of CJ Stroud, and I get the offensive line injuries. Their offensive line is decimated. But he's going to get volume in this because they're not going to put Stroud back there and just allow TJ Watt and company to tee off on CJ Stroud. They're going to feed the ball to Dameon Pierce and let him just chew up this run defense, which as well. Dameon Pierce, 75% zone runs. The Pittsburgh Steelers, second highest yards per carry allowed to zone runs this season.
Let's go to our Who Should I Start tool. This is free to use at fantasypros.com/start. We use this every week. It's a player comparison tool, and all of these sort of comparisons, one player versus another, who are we starting, who are we sitting, we will discuss using that tool and give you percentages of what the experts are saying here. So Erickson, Alvin Kamara or Alexander Mattison, who are you starting this week?
Alexander Mattison. It's not even close.
Okay, not even close, even with Cam Akers, possibly taking something away from Mattison. Now, I know last week you said it's kind of his last go at it.
Well, he was productive for the most part. He did fumble and look not great, but at the same time, until we see Cam Akers action on the field, I'm just going to assume that's still Madison's job. I think that eventually it is going to be Akers, but Madison has to really face plant for that to be the case. And the Vikings use one running back. Even when it's been Madison, when it was Cook last year, they used one guy. So if we see Cam Akers out there, in week 4 at the start, oh, well, Madison's done. But until we see it, I'm going to continue to roll with Madison in a good matchup.
Dameon Pierce or Joshua Kelly?
Dameon Pierce. I think Eckler's going to play anyway, so it doesn't even matter at this point. We can't go back to Josh Kelly for 3 weeks in a row.
Yeah. No,
you have to be worried, Erickson.
I'm with you there, but these are all players that are roughly, neck and neck with each other in the rankings, which is why I picked these two players. And then this one, I'm going to go with Gus Edwards as the Ravens running back. I do think it will be him that plays. So Gus Edwards or Roshan Johnson this week.
I'm going to go with Roshan. Look, I've been trying to hold hope for Khalil Herbert, but the more I think about it, it's just teams just like to get the rookies more involved. Over time, even though I don't think Herbert's really getting a fair run because I don't think that Roshan is that much better than him, if he is better than him at all. But the way that they're talking about Roshan, the way that they want to keep getting him used more, and the matchup is just divine against the Broncos. I think that Roshan would be the play for me. I think he has more upside than Gus Edwards.
The Who Should I Start tool does agree with you on all three of those picks, so you're on line there. The Roshan Gus one is a little lopsided. I think that's because people early in the week have been hesitant to rank Gus given the concussion stuff, so that number I think will come up, but it might still stick with Roshan. As we get later in the week, everybody should go check it out if they do have to make that decision. D-Bro, give me your 3 must-sit running backs.
Well, you're going to be happy about this one, Worm. First guy on the docket here is Jerome Ford, and I want no part of the Baltimore Ravens run defense. Not at all. They're allowing the 10th lowest explosive run rate right now, 10th lowest yards after contact per attempt, and the 4th lowest yards per carry to gap runs, which is 58% of Jerome Ford's rushing volume. So no Jerome Ford, and we're going to stay on the grinder backs here. Brian Robinson, I am not starting him versus the Eagles. That run defense is elite. I want no part of that. They are the only run defense in the NFL yet to allow an explosive run. They have the second highest stuff rate. Brian Robinson's going nowhere this week. And the last guy I'm going to bring up here is Isaiah Pacheco. And the Jets might not be playing great football right now, but their defense is. And you look at how this Jets run defense has been, 4th lowest explosive run rate, 2nd lowest yards after contact per attempt. I think that if they're going to, the Kansas City Chiefs, and I do think they're going to move the ball. I'm not crazy. They're still led by Patrick Mahomes, but it's not going to be on the ground. So I would not be surprised if Jerick McKinnon outsnaps Pacheco this week and they just run through the air.
On the Ford point, Zack Moss did come away with a really huge day against the Ravens last week.
Well, 32 carries will get you over 100
Zack
yards,
Moss
even if
is
you're
also
a
beast. Dude, a broken tackle machine, just like he was in college.
Dude, I can't
Spinning top. That's all he is.
I have Moss in a dynasty league, and I can't give him away. And it's a league I want to be tanking in this year. And everybody just sees Zack Moss and like, oh yeah, that guy. He's just a guy. He stinks.
Well, what are you doing? Are you asking for a 24 first?
No,
worm?
I'm
'Cause
not.
That feels
I'm
like
not
a worm
asking.
kind of thing
I'm not
to
asking
do.
for anything unreasonable, but nobody has any interest in him for whatever reason. I'm like, he looks.
Well, because he's Zack Moss.
Well, I mean, he's played really well and getting this huge workload. And as long as JT's not playing, I mean, Moss is like an RB1 essentially. So I'm surprised that I can't get anything for him. I don't want to keep starting him because I want to be losing games, and he's costing me my tank job. So actually, D-Bro, Ford, Robinson, and Pacheco are back to back to back in the rankings as of the time of putting together this show sheet. So I kind of want to ask you, looping them all together, are you starting any of these three or Javonte Williams, who's the guy that's ranked one spot ahead of these three?
I'm going to go with Javonte. I mean, Chicago Bears, I think like there's a lot of different parts of pieces of that. I think we could have seen the ramp up for Javonte last week, but game script, that game got out of hand. So I think that we could see Javonte get more work this week.
How about the guy that's below these three? Any of these three, again, that's Ford, Robinson, Pacheco, or James Conner?
Ooh. I think I'm going to go James Conner. Their offensive line's blocking pretty well, surprisingly, and James Conner's looks spry.
Lastly, Jerome Ford, Isaiah Pacheco, or Brian Robinson. You have to start one.
Ew, I don't want to start any of them. Give me Jerome Ford.
Okay, he's actually
going
going
to Pacheco, dude. He's on the Chiefs, man. They're playing the Jets.
Yeah, and watch Pacheco get taken out of the goal line, and it's like pop pass to Kadarius Toney or 2 touchdowns for Jerick McKinnon again.
All I'm saying is you have a lot more points to work with the Chiefs offense than this Ravens-Browns game where there might be like 17 points scored together.
That's fair.
The tool, which you can do more than 2 players, so I put all 3 of them into the tool at the same time for this one. Actually, 2/3 of the vote is for Brian Robinson. So neither of those 2 guys.
I love some B-Rob.
Yeah. I don't know if you guys are like me, but fall is unquestionably my favorite season. There's nothing I love more than seeing the colors change, feeling that crisp autumn breeze. Just feels like football. I love fall camping, going to games, and pretty much any outdoor activity this time of year. The only thing better is spending fall outside with friends and with beer, but not just any beer. Miller Lite, the 96-calorie beer that tastes like beer and is perfectly brewed for everything summer and fall have to offer. In fact, I just went camping with some friends the other weekend, so we had to pack the travel coolers full of Miller Lites, sitting around the fire that night, swapping stories and inside jokes, all while cracking open another Miller Lite. It was heavenly. Whether you're spending evenings around a backyard fire pit, enjoying a football game with pals, or sharing laughter amidst the rustle of falling leaves, live those autumn moments with Miller Lite. With a Miller Lite in your hand, fall doesn't just taste great, it tastes like Miller time. To get Miller Lite delivered right to your door, visit MillerLite.com/FantasyPros. That's MillerLite.com/FantasyPros, or you can find it pretty much anywhere that sells beer. Celebrate responsibly. Miller Brewing Company, Milwaukee, Wisconsin, 96 calories and 3.2 carbs per 12 ounces. Erickson, give me your must-sit wide receivers.
Yep, I'm going to a guy that has caught 3 touchdowns in the first 3 weeks of the season. It's Mike Evans. It may sound weird because he's been so productive over the first 3 weeks of the year, but look, Mike Evans has a boomer bust profile, and eventually he's not going to catch a touchdown. Like, that's going to happen. And what matchup where this is most likely to happen? Oh, what do you know? Against his boy Marshawn Lattimore. Like, we've seen this matchup years and years and years, and I know Evans has had his fair share of victories, but usually it's because he catches a touchdown, even if it's one catch for a touchdown. But Lattimore, for the most part, has had Evans' number. They're playing in New Orleans, they're playing in New Orleans, so it's on the road for the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Lattimore has been balling out to start the year. 20.8 passer rating allowed in coverage this season. That ranks 3rd best among cornerbacks. So I know that Evans has been hot. It's hard to kind of sit a player that's been like this, but wide receivers are volatile, and I'm pushing my chips in on this is going to be the week where Mike Evans has a bad week, just given the matchup against Marshawn Lattimore. Next guy up is Adam Thielen. Coming off, oh my God, this insane game where he had over 100 yards, he had 14 targets, caught a touchdown, a garbage time touchdown, by the way, that they did not have to score. Andy Dalton threw the ball 58 times. But let me remind you guys, before Andy Dalton took over at quarterback, first 2 weeks of the season, when it was Bryce Young at quarterback, Adam Thielen was averaging 33 yards per game. Like, he's averaging as many yards as his age. Adam Thielen, 33 years old. Don't forget it. All right. So I'm going to fade the old Adam Thielen in this matchup. I know the matchup's good. I know it's a revenge game, Erickson. What do you mean? Like, you got to play. It was like, no. I'm looking at the facts here. And if Bryce Young is the starting quarterback, I don't want to play his wide receivers, even in a good matchup. This screams like a trap for me for Adam Thielen's stat line from last week. And then lastly is Quentin Johnston. I know a lot of people picked him up this week or are thinking about starting him because it's a good matchup against the Raiders, but all indications are he's still behind Josh Palmer on the depth chart. So don't be bullish on, I got to start Johnston this week. I got him off waivers. I'm excited to play this rookie because we haven't seen him have a role in this offense whatsoever. And even though it would seem like he would step into that wide receiver 3 role, I don't know how lucrative that's going to be because we've actually seen a lot of the Chargers use a lot of 2 tight end sets. There's been a lot of Gerald Everett, a lot of Darnell Parham. So they may continue to do that against an offense, or excuse me, against the Raiders. And you also have Austin Eckler coming back, which is also going to eat into potential targets that could go to QJ. So for me, he's really someone I want to hold on my bench still. I want to see things play out because I think it is going to be more Josh Palmer than QJ here in week 4.
Now, Debro, you are in lockstep with Erickson. You're actually even lower on Mike Evans than Erickson is. But you're significantly higher on both Thielen and Quentin Johnston this week. So of those 2 guys, who do you have a little more conviction on?
I'm going to go with Adam Thielen on that one. And when I broke that game down for the primer, I was actually surprised by 2 different things. One, that Brian Flores went very heavy with man coverage last week. It was over 60% of their coverage snaps. And because they had been extremely zone heavy. So I was walking into that matchup being like, oh, well, Thielen's just going to eat up zone. It's going to be good. And then I pull it up and I'm like, wait a minute. They're running a lot of man coverage. I know it's a Brian Flores thing. Well, Adam Thielen's probably been pretty bad versus man coverage. That man has 3.35 yards per route run versus man coverage this year. I was not expecting to see that. So definitely opened my eyes. If I got to pick one of those guys, I'm going to go with Adam Thielen because, yes, Marshawn Lattimore is Mike Evans' daddy. They're waiting for the paternity test. I hear it's going to come back this Sunday, so it should be interesting.
Let's do some player comparisons here, Erickson. Mike Evans this week or George Pickens?
I'm going to start George Pickens. The Texans still don't have a lot of strong cornerbacks, and this is a matchup that the Steelers' offense should be at least okay against.
The vote is close on that one, but it does go with Pickens. How about Adam Thielen or Drake London this week?
Fade Drake London in London? Is that what you're proposing? I'm
it's
going
ballsy.
with the young guy. Like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm not falling for this I'm not falling for this Adam Thielen trap. It's such a trap for me because the quarterback's different. Andy Dalton threw the ball 58 times last week. That his total is so bloated and not sustainable that even with Mingo like not playing and he's going to be missing the game with concussion, like I'm just not buying it. Like I'm not going to be surprised whatsoever. We look up at Adam Thielen, 3 for 30. Sick.
The who should I start tool is very lopsided towards Thielen, not towards London.
Because they're chasing the box score, man. Chasing the box score.
I'm just pointing it out. And then Quentin Johnston or Sky Moore this week.
Gross.
Yeah. You pick a guy that's low in the rankings, you're going to get a gross player comp.
I mean, I'm just going to take... See, now I can't even like make the quarterback argument because Justin Herbert's really good too. So I can't be like, oh, well, this guy's got Mahomes. I mean, I guess I'm just going to go Sky Moore because he plays more. And I don't think that he's going to draw coverage from Sauce, even though I don't really know who the Chiefs wide receiver 1 is anyway. I just don't have any confidence about what Johnston's role is going to be necessarily, so I will just roll out Sky. Actually, can I start Rashee Rice? Can I start him instead of Sky Moore?
It's not the question, but sure. Yeah, I'll allow it.
Well, I'm going to do that then. I'm going to start Rashee Rice.
He's just making up his own rules as he goes, baby. You love it.
You did stick with your convictions because all 3 of those player comps, the tool goes against you, but you're planting your flag on these guys as must-sits in week 4. So I respect the conviction. Debro, give me your 3 must-sit receivers.
Well, this first name makes me sad to say, but we have to go there, man. Like, Zay Flowers, I cannot play him this week. This comes down to he's going to run 69% of his routes, and as nice as that number is, it's still going to be against Denzel Ward and Martin Emerson. And Emerson's allowing a 39.9 passer rating in coverage. The Cleveland Browns have allowed the lowest fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers, so got to sit Zay. Next guy up here is Marquise Brown. looking at them versus the Chiefs, the 49ers, I'm looking at Charvarius Ward's name, and I'm forgetting previous teams. But versus the 49ers with Lenore and Charvarius Ward, who's only giving up a 59 pass rating in his coverage, I got to sit him. And the low-hanging fruit here, man, Garrett Wilson. I do not ever want to start Garrett Wilson because he's got to catch passes from Zack Wilson. And as crazy as it is to say, I can't roll with Garrett Wilson. He's been walking this tightrope for the past few weeks where he gets a touchdown, he gets a broken play, he rips off a long one for a touchdown. Like, that's eventually going to stop people. There's no way that he keeps doing this and we're all like, all right, whose fault is this? Who did this? It's not going to happen again. I think the buck stops here this week against Kansas City secondary that's allowing the 6th fewest fantasy points per game to opposing wide receivers.
Yeah, by the way, while you're talking, I pulled up on Betting Pros. They do kind of full breakdowns of the betting angles of every game. I'm really surprised the total points in Baltimore-Cleveland is in the 40s. It's only 40.5, but like I'm expecting that game to be like 13-10. Like I think that's a game where like it doesn't even matter what the number is. I'm taking the under. The Browns defense is so good. I think Mike McDonald will put Deshaun Watson in a blender.
Sounds like a alternate total bet. Is that what I'm smelling? Under 20?
I mean, quite frankly, you gave me good enough odds. I might consider that. But yeah, I do want to ask you too, D-Bro, just like quickly on Marquise Brown. We were so right, I thought rightfully negative on the Cardinals coming into the year that like we haven't really given them much thought or much shine. Obviously, you're putting Brown as a must sit, but they've been more competitive than expected. Obviously, they had the biggest upset of the NFL season to date. What do you make of Hollywood Brown's role in this offense in general moving forward, just quickly?
I mean, he's vacuuming up targets, man. He's got a 26% target share, 37% air yard share. Like, I think that as long as he gets somewhat competent quarterback play, and Josh Dobbs is playing better than we thought he'd be playing. And if Kyler Murray comes back, I mean, he's honestly a guy that might be a pretty good buy low, because if Kyler comes back, we've seen what that looks like. Marquise Brown was a wide receiver 1 with nobody else around him.
For week 4 only, not for any sort of buy low or rest of season, Zay Flowers or Chris Godwin?
Ooh. I'm going to go Godwin because, like I said, Evans is going to get shut down. So target's got to go somewhere.
Marquise Brown or DJ Moore?
I'm actually pretty decently high on DJ Moore. I'm going to go DJ Moore.
And then Garrett Wilson or Adam Thielen?
I'm going to go Adam Thielen. I'd much rather trust Bryce Young or Andy Dalton throwing the ball over Zack Wilson any day.
All these are relatively close. Who should I start? Agrees with you on Godwin and Moore. It does have Garrett Wilson ahead of Adam Thielen. So not everybody is buying into the box score, Erickson. Erickson, let's go to the quarterback, tight end, defense section. We kind of glom these all together. We're a little up on time, so we'll go a little quicker for this section as we wrap up. But Erickson, give me your quarterback, tight end, and defense special teams.
Going to go to the Cowboys-Patriots game for my must-sit quarterback. It's not Mac Jones. It's Dak Prescott. I don't want to play Dak Prescott. Dak Prescott has not finished better than QB 17 this year because this offense is built around let's feed Tony Pollard as much as humanly possible, and it's not doing a lot for Dak in the passing game. So Dak either has to be super efficient to really get there. I mean, even when he threw 2 touchdowns against the Jets and had a high completion percentage, he still finished outside the top 15 quarterbacks. This game's not going to be a shootout. Again, the Patriots play these games that they want to keep it low scoring. They want to keep the other offense off the field, and they want to play defense. And the Cowboys' strength right now is also on their defense. So a boring game that I don't really want a lot of offensive pieces from, and they're just not dialing up enough passing attempts for Dak Prescott to be a fantasy producer. So until we see more of this offense change, which I don't expect because of Mike McCarthy being the guy that's calling the plays, Dak's kind of like a boring fantasy quarterback right now that you can't trust, especially in bad matchups. So I'm sitting him. David Njoku against the Baltimore Ravens. Again, we've talked about this game and how gross it is. You can't start David Njoku. Like, you can't even roster him, honestly, at this point. Like, we've had enough of a sample size of him just not involved enough. 11% target share through 3 games, 12% target rate per route run, which is tied for the lowest among tight ends, at least 10 targets. That's like Durham Smythe, Dalton Schultz range. Like, this is like really bad for David Njoku. And then to add, just the matchup's also just brutal. Ravens defense, 2.7 receptions, 15 receiving yards allowed to tight ends through 3 games. I mean, if Kyle Hamilton is going up against Njoku in any capacity, like, Njoku's like not going to catch anything. So I'm going to fade David Njoku, and you can honestly drop him and pick up a waiver wire tight end. And then lastly, going back to the Patriots Cowboys game, just Patriots DST. I don't like starting Dak Prescott, but it's not because I think he's going to throw a bunch of interceptions. I just don't think this game is conducive to a lot of fantasy points for defenses. And the Patriots overall, they're on the road, they're underdogs, just not a good setup because I don't know how many dropbacks they're going to have opportunities to really throw and create turnovers on. So for me, the Patriots DST is another one that I want to bench this week.
Quick note on Njoku. Kyle Hamilton didn't practice on Wednesday, so we'll see kind of how that goes through the rest of the week.
Well, he's licking his wounds from putting Gardner Minshew into the dirt. Dude.
I was going to say he didn't practice because of his back. I said his back's tired from carrying the Raven. He was the only Raven that showed up in week 3. Dude. So no wonder his back hurts.
That hit on Minshew, dude, I was like, where did this guy come from?
Which one? Like, all 3 of them looked identical. It was just the same play. And he kept
I think it was the blindside one that he just like absolutely pummeled Minshew into the ground.
Kyle Hamilton's a monster. He is an absolute beast. Very quickly here, David Njoku or Kyle Pitts this week?
I'll just roll with Kyle Pitts. At least I know he's going to be running more routes, and he had 9 targets last week.
Yeah.
I mean, one of these days he's going to catch one of those long passes.
Yeah, maybe Desmond Ridder won't overthrow him on a 90-yard touchdown this week. That would be ideal.
No, let's be real, guys. That's never going to happen.
Yeah, who am I kidding? I think Pitts' best game of his career came in London, right? I think I saw that.
He scored a touchdown.
Those London splits, baby.
We'll see how that goes. D-Rogue, take us home with quarterback, tight end defense.
Yeah, we're just going to continue to sit here and just shade the Browns here, man. Deshaun Watson, got to sit him. Baltimore Ravens pass defense is legit. 3rd fewest yards per attempt, 12th lowest passer rating. They blitz at the 8th highest rate. So while their pressure rate is at 24th, if that blitz gets home, Deshaun Watson's going to have a bad day. Next guy I got to go here with, sorry, Erickson. I know this is your anytime touchdown boy, but Jake Ferguson. I cannot play him against the New England Patriots. We talk about the no-fly zone of the New Orleans Saints versus tight ends. Patriots the same freaking way, man. 4th fewest receiving yards and 0 touchdowns. 0 touchdowns. And Jake Ferguson's that's his moneymaker, man. It's all touchdowns. So got to bench Ferg Daddy this week. And DST, I'm going to go outside the box a little bit here. I'm going to bench the Buffalo Bills. And this all comes down to, are they an above average defense? Well, of course, we're not crazy. I'm not telling you that they're not. But what they're not great at is defending the deep ball. And we know Tua is going to dial that up. It's Tyreek Hill. Jalen Waddle is going to be back. We're going to see fireworks there. Last year, Buffalo versus the deep ball, 13th fewest deep ball attempts in the NFL that they faced, but they gave up the 12th highest adjusted completion rate on deep balls, the 9th highest pass rating on targets 20 yards or higher. So Buffalo Bills, sit down. We're going to stream somebody else.
Yeah, I'm not sure how much justification you need to provide to say sit the defense that's going up against the team that just dropped 70 points in an NFL
70
game. And arguably a record for most yardage in a game. I saw there was some like confusion about whether or not they actually got it. But I think a lot of people would probably shy away from the Bills there. Very quickly, Deshaun Watson or CJ Stroud this week?
Ooh, I'll go Stroud. I believe in Stroud way a million times more than I believe in Watson.
Now, I'm going to sort of stick with Watson again. I want to ask a follow-up. Deshaun Watson or Jordan Love?
Deshaun Watson. I don't like it, but I'll go with Watson on that one.
Erickson, how would you rank those 3 quickly? Watson, Stroud, and Love.
Probably just start Stroud and then Watson and then Love.
All right. Yeah, I'm totally with you. I think Mike McDonald will thrive against a quarterback like Deshaun that looks slow and indecisive and is still getting back to kind of making the right decisions. I think he's going to.
Did you guys see that throw where he threw it backwards?
Oh, yeah. Of course. We tweeted it out from the FantasyPros account. That was a very Carson Wentz-esque.
It was like, is this like the worst throw ever?
It might actually be.
It looked very much like a Marcus Mariota play from last year. That's all I kept thinking about.
It was comical. It was one of the and he had a
pretty good game. It was like Marcus Mariota
but
trying to be Patrick Mahomes, but Deshaun Watson.
It was weird because he came in his best game of the year. I mean, against the defense, we kind of expected that, but that was hilariously bad. Quick recap here: the must-sit running backs: Alvin Kamara, Dameon Pierce, Gus Edwards, or any Ravens running back; Jerome Ford, Brian Robinson, Isaiah Pacheco. Must-sit wide receivers: Mike Evans, Adam Thielen, Quentin Johnston, Zay Flowers, Marquise Brown, Garrett Wilson. We're sitting Dak Prescott and Deshaun Watson at quarterback. We are sitting David Njoku and Jake Ferguson at tight end. We are sitting the Patriots and Bills DSTs. For Debro and Erickson, I am Ryan Wormeli. We will see you guys again next time.